What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. Today, I am talking about something that I'm feeling particularly passionate about, I guess, honestly, over just maybe the last month or so, and trying to articulate my thoughts off air with Jenna to some clients before I hopped on here and talked about it. I didn't make any notes today. I just kind of want to speak from the heart, I guess. That's like a weird way of saying it, but just kind of go off the cuff here. And so the topic I want to talk about, as you've probably seen in the title, is this idea of this like bounce back culture, where women who are pregnant and then have children, there's this big like push to, after you have the baby, to bounce back to your pre-pregnancy body and your pre-pregnancy weight, and, you know, kind of rid your body of all kind of evidence that you were pregnant and all of the things that can come from that. And what I'll start with is I think that there's a lot of negative stuff that I don't agree with in terms of the way this is discussed. First of all, I'm a man. I'm talking about this from my perspective. My wife is currently pregnant, and I've never had a baby, and so we have never had this bounce back, scenario yet. But it's something I think about a lot, something we talk about a lot, and so that's the perspective with which I'm speaking. I don't know everything. I don't know everybody's perspective, but here we go. And so what I'll start with is I think that there's a lot of things that I see out there in this like bounce back culture. I think is let's just say a net negative. I think I'm also a full believer in it's not what you do, it's the headspace with which you do it, right? It's not necessarily what you do, it's the headspace and intent with which you do it. So what I mean by that is there's better and worse ways to go about doing anything. There's, more mentally and less mentally healthy ways to go about doing things. And when we're talking about something as amazing and beautiful and just transformative as having a child, I think that women are ripe from a marketing perspective to be preyed upon for some of these, like, get your body back, go back to your pre-pregnancy weight, go back to your pre-pregnancy body. And it can be something that is not great, let's say. It can be something that's pushed on women that I think can create just some negative experiences. I mean, your body has gone through just the most amazing thing, but also, I don't want to say the word traumatic, but a transformative event in your life. And the idea that you're going to go back to exactly the way you were in terms of your body and your weight, as far as pre-pregnancy, as if nothing happened, that I don't love selling that tale to somebody. I don't love the idea that women are preyed upon as if that's what they should do, that's what they have to do, or even that's realistically what's possible for them to just go back to their pre-pregnancy body and weight as if nothing ever happened. I think that there's something very healthy about a certain level of acceptance that things will always have, let me rephrase this, a certain level of acceptance that things have changed, that you've gone through this amazing thing, and that the idea that you can ever get back to as if nothing ever happened, I think that there should be a level of acceptance that that's not super realistic, at least on average for most women, that there's going to be some element of evidence that you've had a child. However, these are a lot of disclaimers here to start off this episode here, where I think there's a lot of net negative content out there and marketing towards women, preying on women's insecurities now that their body has changed, whether they have loose skin or stretch marks or they gained, weight during pregnancy, and now they're not pregnant and they are ripe for this sort of prey marketing, right? And I don't love that. I think a lot of the rhetoric is super extreme, and a lot of the rhetoric is, sets women up for expectations that end up having them feel not great, whether that's because it was not realistic or it was overly ambitious, or it created this obsession with aesthetics that I think, when it comes to living your happiest life, I think we could all do with a little bit less body obsession. And I think it just only facilitates that more and pushes that more. And I think that ends up being a net negative. But I'm going to put a big however here, because the actual point of my podcast is, all of that stuff is how I felt before Jenna got pregnant. And I felt it really strongly. And, if I were taking on clients who were, just had a baby or maybe 8 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, 16 weeks ago, had a baby, and they came to me in the hopes that they can, whether it's lose fat or build muscle and change their physique, and, they just had a baby, air quotes, just had a baby. This is their first, let's say, coaching training experience afterwards, after they've been cleared by a doctor, all of that. I always felt a little bit weird. Like, I didn't want you to be like, I would, I was like, well, maybe shouldn't be super focused on aesthetics right now. We should be focused on health and, whether you're breastfeeding or, just generally getting back to good habits and feeling good and getting back to maybe your pre-pregnancy routines, and not so focused on the aesthetics. And I still think that that's a great idea. I still think that having that, first of all, I think that that's a good idea for everyone, by the way. I think even if you care about aesthetics and you're coming to me because you want to lose fat or build muscle, I think all of that stuff in terms of building routines and focusing on how you feel and energy and sleep and libido and just mood and all that stuff is really important. So we should always be also focused on that. But I felt a little bit weird in those moments, just like, hey, I really want this person to not obsess over getting back to their pre-baby body, their pre-baby weight. And there's a but coming, but you can tell that I'm laboring on moving on to the next section of this because I really want you guys to understand that I do think that there's a lot of negativity around, let's call it bounce back culture. I hate giving things a name like that. But let's call it bounce back culture. And let's say that encompasses all of this kind of negative rhetoric, extremism, body obsession, expectations that you should even be able to get back to exactly the way you were before, quote unquote. But I'll move on to the next section because it's kind of where my head and heart have been at in the last couple of months. So my wife is pregnant, Jenna. She is 16 weeks in. We're in that second trimester, and I'd say in 16 weeks, she's working out right now. And when I say working out, I mean, she's not doing the kind of working out she used to do before. She's doing a very modified version of that, both from an intensity and exercise selection standpoint. And I'd say that in 16 weeks, this is probably her fourth workout. And I'll include cardiovascular work in there too. I think she went on the treadmill for a walk. Now we go for walks with the dogs and stuff, but let's say intense workouts, maybe 4 workouts in 16 weeks. Now Jenna normally works out really hard 4 to 6 times a week. And so that's, 60 workouts potentially, and she's done 4. Her nutrition has changed quite a bit just based on pregnancy preferences. In a funny way, I've watched her eat things and combination of things that I've never seen her desire in like 7 years of knowing her. She'll text me, Jordan, I need fried rice. And I'm like, okay, babe, we'll get Chinese for dinner. Like, no problem. She's like, no, it's on its way right now. And I'm like, babe, it's 11:45 in the morning, and it's just like things like that where she'll be like, babe, I need this. And it'll just be a thing that I've never seen her desire ever in knowing her. So this is like, it's just kind of this funny thing of, I didn't realize how much your preferences can change. And it's just been a crazy thing to watch happen. So she's not working out. Now, first of all, we're 10 minutes into this podcast here, but no judgment, please. No directions. We're on top of this. We understand how that, exercise is good for the baby and it's good for her and eating nutritious food is good. But I really don't want someone in my DMs like, hey, you guys should really be exercising. It's important. Like, she really shouldn't go that long without exercising. Please, kindly fuck off. We're doing our best. She's doing her best. When she feels up for exercise, we find something that she can do. When she feels up for eating nutritious food, she does it. But there's an element of this that is survival and doing what you can. And she's had a real rough go at it. So I really don't want people in my DMs of like, you should really be exercising. Fuck off. So she's not really exercising. She's trying her best. When we have mental capacity, energy, she's not nauseous, we do it. When she can find nutritious food that she has the palate for, she has an appetite for, we do it. And it's been getting better into the second trimester, I will admit. Like, just generally, her mood and energy has been feeling better. So we're excited about that. Maybe there will be a bit more movement in her future, maybe a bit more like nutritious diet in her future. But please reserve, please just save your judgment on that, please. I digress. She's not exercising much. I want to paint this picture. And I don't want to just make it about Jenna. It's not, but let's just paint this picture here. She's not exercising very much. This is a woman, Jenna, who her entire life and a big part of her identity has been, for the 7 years she's been on this earth, just turned 27, has been incredibly active and muscular and strong and fit. She's incredibly strong, incredibly fit, amazing athlete. That's been her identity for her whole life. And it's not her only piece of her identity. That's not what I'm talking about here, but it's been a piece of her identity, just like it is for me. I do fitness for a living. She was a D1 athlete. She is incredibly strong. She, loves to lift, absolutely loves to have muscle. And yeah, it's a piece of her identity and has been. And guess what? It's being taken away from her. There's so many caveats with this because pregnancy and all this is such a touchy subject. We're not saying that we don't feel blessed to be having a baby and that we are not happy that we're having a baby, or that what I'm talking about in terms of the downsides aren't massively outweighed by the upsides of having a baby, because they are. We are so excited to have a baby. And I keep using the word we, but she's the one really going through this, So when I say we, I don't mean to make this about me as well. That's how I tend to talk, because I do kind of think of us as a team here, but she is the one going through this. And where was I on that track? It's been a big part of her identity, and it's being taken away from her. She's gaining fat, not a lot, but she's gaining fat and losing muscle, and not exercising, and not feeling good, and not feeling fit, and feeling tired. And I'm sure by the end of this pregnancy, she will have lost quite a bit of muscle. Now, she'll have lost muscle. She'll have lost strength. She won't feel fit. She won't feel like herself. She won't look like, what she has looked like for the prior 27 years of her life. And that's tough. Now, of course, it's worth it to have a beautiful child and for us to start our life together. And we're very blessed and very happy about all that. But that is still rough on her. And my perspective on this bounce back culture is changing. She's going through this. I am not. Her body will change. Mine will not. She will lose muscle. I will not. She will gain body fat. I will not. And she will have to really face that identity change a little bit of like, hey, I'm no longer that fit, muscular, strong, lean person I was before. Now, that doesn't mean I can't get back to that, right? And that's kind of the point of this podcast. And what I'm saying now is I'm not like hashtag bounce back culture. No fucking way. I'm not saying you got to go right back to where you were, or, but what I want to say is, if you're out there and you feel guilty, because there are people out there saying you should not be focused on getting back to any amount of aesthetic focus at all. You shouldn't be focused on fat loss, shouldn't be focused on aesthetics at all. What I will say is, I'm not so sure I'm in agreement with that. What I mean is, man, you've been through a transformation. And if you finish having a baby and you take your time to recover and you get cleared by your doctor to exercise and you want to build muscle and lose fat and kind of move, I don't want to say go back to the body you had before. I don't love that phrasing, but like, if you finish having a baby and your body has changed and you want to change it from where you're at right now and build muscle and lose fat because you want to look and feel better, I empower you to do so. I think that we maybe go too far with kind of fighting against this extreme rhetoric of bounce back culture, that we've almost made women feel guilty for wanting to not bounce back, but go back to feeling like their fit, healthy self, or looking like their fit, healthy self. I'm just watching Jenna go through this, and all I'm thinking is, there's nothing wrong with you finishing pregnancy and saying, man, I really want to get back to lifting and eating nutritious foods and maybe losing some fat and getting back to where I look and feel my best. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you're doing it in a nice, balanced headspace. And I just have spoken to women. I work almost exclusively with women. I'd say 95% of my clients are women. I've had many, 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 many clients come to me in this situation postpartum, cleared for exercise, looking to change their physique, looking to get strong, looking to build muscle, looking to lose some fat. And I've always felt a little bit like, maybe we shouldn't be, I would never tell a client we shouldn't do that. But I always felt a little bit different than I feel right now. And I think I feel way more inclined. And it's funny, I just took on a client recently. I was going to shout her name out, but that's probably not the smartest plan. But and that's kind of where she's at, right? Postpartum, cleared for exercise. We're easing her back into it. But yeah, she's like, I want to go back to my fit, strong, lean, healthiest self, let's say. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, yes, if you can have a little level of acceptance where there are things that have happened, whether it's stretch marks or a little loose skin, or you're working on some diastasis stuff, or, things have changed. You're not going to be exactly who you were pre-pregnancy. But in the same breath, like, I actually am way more excited to help women who want to go back to feeling like their normal self, and part of that might be fat loss and muscle growth. I'm watching Jenna go through it. She's going through it. She's not exercising as much. She's not lifting as much. Guess what? I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm over here training 11 times a week. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm lifting. I'm running a half marathon. Guess what she's doing? She's in bed all day throwing up. And like, all I can think about is like, yeah, of course, when this is all said and done, you should be allowed to want to focus on you and get back to your fit and healthy self. There's a better and worse mindset to do that in, and I think we should cultivate the correct mindset, a nice balanced mindset with an element of acceptance. But man, I think that the more I think about this, the more fired up I get to help women in this state. I mean, maybe my perspective will continue to change. We are just 16 weeks into pregnancy. I've worked with pregnant women for the last decade, not exclusively, but throughout my career. But this is, let's be real, this is changing my perspective on things. And I think that women should feel empowered if they are in a mentally healthy place, as far as like not getting overly obsessive about it, and with some level of acceptance, should feel empowered to say, yeah, I want to get back to, having that muscle I had before. I want to lose a little bit of body fat. I want to go back to feeling like I did before pregnancy when I was feeling good. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think some of the bounce back culture, because we always do this, we swing from one end of the pendulum to the other. This like bounce back culture of you got to get back to your body weight before, you got to get back to your body before, you got to get rid of any evidence that you were pregnant. That's not great. But what's happened is we've recoiled to the other side of the spectrum, which is like shunning all women from wanting to, in any way, shape, or form, kind of be physique focused after having a baby. And I think that that's one, totally not fair for a man to do, but probably just not fair to women. There, like I said a million times, there's more and less mentally healthy ways to go about doing this. I don't think an increase in body obsession is good for anybody, but man, you guys go through a crazy experience that's going to change your body forever. And you're probably going to gain fat and lose muscle during this process. And who the hell am I or anyone else to say that you can't want to reverse that by gaining muscle, losing fat, when this is all said and done, within the context of all the things that are healthy for the baby? If you're breastfeeding, there's some things that you should focus on as well. But I just get amped up. I just took on a new client, and she's in this situation, and I'm so amped up to help her get back to feeling good. And part of that will be building muscle, losing weight, fitting in her clothes again, all of that stuff. And I don't want to, I recoiled hard, I think, from the bounce back culture. I was like, yeah, this is bounce back culture, a bunch of idiots, like way too extreme. I don't think that it's a net positive in general for most women. And I think I recoiled to the other side of the spectrum, when in reality, I think that doesn't do much good either, or it doesn't do the most good for the most people, let's say. And I'm just feeling like, I'm watching Jenna down. I just came from the garage downstairs. I was sitting with her while she was working out, and she's feeling a little down. She's like, listen, she's not lost muscle forever. Muscle memory is absolutely real, but it's not so easy to be like, yeah, babe, just don't train for 39 weeks and then muscle memory is real and you'll gain it all back and it's all going to be fine. Like, that's tough to really internalize. And it's partially true. Muscle memory is absolutely real, but nobody wants to not train for 39 weeks. Nobody wants to lose a significant amount of muscle that they then have to gain back. Nobody wants to gain weight that they eventually have to or would like to lose. I'm going to sneeze at some point. It might sneak in. And yeah, I'm a little bit more pumped up in a positive way that if you're out there, if you are listening to this and you're in this place, it's okay. You're allowed to say, yeah, I'd like to lose some weight and build some muscle and go back to how I felt before pregnancy, with a level of acceptance that things might not be exactly the same, probably won't ever be exactly the same. But I think if you can do that in a healthy mindset, I want you to, yeah. Whenever I say stuff like that, it's like, who the fuck cares what I think? But I think you should feel good about doing that. And I think you shouldn't be shunned by this, like, the equally extreme anti-bounce back culture that says, no, you should not be focused at all on fat loss or aesthetics at all. It's just about, being healthy. And it is also about all that stuff. It's not dichotomous. We're not talking about forgetting about health and forgetting about stress management, forgetting about what's good for you and the baby, and forgetting about, feeling good energy-wise. And that's all important too. But this like bounce back culture has now made us kind of like us. When I say us, I mean me as a coach when I'm talking to pregnant women, but also pregnant women who are consuming that content, probably makes them feel bad about wanting to do that. And I'm feeling like, I just feel like, man, as a man, I'm watching my wife go through this. And I'll tell you right now, if I was going through that, that's exactly how I'd feel. I'd be like, hey, I know that I'm having a baby and that's a beautiful thing. And I know that this, the downside is that I'm not going to exercise as much. And maybe my diet's a little bit different. And maybe I gain a little body fat during this time, maybe. But when I'm done, I'm going to want to go back to my lifting and training and fitness and feel good. Obviously things change when you have a baby, but I would want that. And why can't she want that? And why can't you want that? And of course you can. Of course, Jenna and I have had many talks about doing that and being in a positive mindset and trying to do what she can right now. But I just feel like I've maybe me a little bit throughout my career have let women down and not being as on board with that as a goal. I've never told any of my clients what they should want, and I've always helped them do what they say they want. I've tried to pose alternative perspectives and make sure that they know all the options, but I think I'm just changing my tune a little bit here and being like, yeah, if you just had a baby and you're a certain distance away postpartum and you've been cleared for exercise, and yeah, don't jump right back into training 100% exactly what you were doing. Of course, I'm talking about doing this the right way in a safe and controlled manner, but I don't think there's anything wrong with you being like, hey, I'd like to lose some body fat and build muscle because I lost a ton of muscle and gained body fat during pregnancy. And I want to go back to feeling good, fitting in my clothes, looking good. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I'm watching Jenna go through it, and I think it's killing me is maybe an overstatement, but no, I'm not sure. It is killing me a little bit. I'm watching this person who really loves exercise, really loves fitness, prides herself on being strong and being a kind of like a role model for women in terms of lifting weights, being heavy, not trying to be, super skinny 24/7, trying to be promoting health and exercise and muscle and strength and all that stuff. And it's kind of being taken away from her. And if she wants to get it back after pregnancy, I'm going to help her. I'm going to help the shit out of her. And I'm going to empower her and I'm going to encourage her, and she can absolutely do that. I think that there's, of course, like everything, mentally more and less healthy ways of doing everything. And I think that it's important to check in with that and be well-rounded and focus on, more than just aesthetics. But damn, I'm going to be there for her and encourage her and help her. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So that's probably the end of this podcast. I just think that we always recoil from one extreme to the next, and this whole like bounce back culture went way too far. And I think it went way too far on preying on women who are in a vulnerable state, who have had their body go through a crazy transformation. And then we recoiled and said, well, that's dumb. You shouldn't be focused on aesthetics at all. You shouldn't be thinking about that at all. And I think that's also wrong. And it's like, if you're a man saying that, then I think you have no right to say that. You have no right to say it in such an extreme way because this has not happened to you. And yeah, I'm going to end it there before I word vomit and just repeat everything that I've been saying. So, Jenna, if you listen to this, I love you, and you're doing great, and I'm proud of you. Okay. Okay. Talk to you guys in the next episode.